You were about to enter Chuck versus the podcast, the place for people who love Chuck and the people who work on Chuck. The only show that takes you behind the scenes with the stars.
Yvonne Strahovski.
Zachary Levi. Joshua Gomez.
Ryan McPartland.
Adam Baldwin.
Sarah Lancaster.
Interactive interviews.
Julia Ling.
Phil Clemmer.
All the cast.
Dixon High. Tony Hale. Scott Krinsky. Mark Christopher Lawrence.
Anita Friederici.
Fun hosts.
This is Mel.
This is Liz.
Now you can see how wacko we are.
The writers.
Ali Adler. Scott Rosenbaum. Zev Barrow.
The editors.
Matt Barber. Jeff Granville. Kevin Mock.
Contests.
We are giving away a Chuck press kit.
The directors.
Jason Ensign. Norman Buckley.
The guest stars.
Steve Austin.
Kristen Group.
The music.
This is Tim Jones.
Guest hosts.
I'm Kaylee from Toronto.
Conventions.
Lights come up, and here comes Jester out on stage.
Set visits.
This is the guy right here.
And much more. Are you ready? This is great.
This is Mel.
This is Liz.
And we want to welcome you to Chuck versus the Podcast, episode 51 for Friday, April 30th, 2010. We have what I think is one of the best episodes of Chuck this season to cover, Chuck versus the Honeymooners. But first, we've got the news and a veritable cornucopia of listener emails.
Cornucopia. I like that word.
I do too.
We have the ratings for Chuck versus the Honeymooners, and they did hold steady from the last new episode, which aired on April 5th, so before that 3-week break. According to TV by the Numbers, approximately 5.98 million viewers turned in to see Chuck and Sarah finally in a relationship, and that's a 2.1 in the 18 to 49 demo, which is almost identical to what Chuck versus the other guy pulled in before the break. And based on the fan response to this episode, we're expecting to see the ratings trend up from here as people continue to talk to their friends and family and say, hey, Chuck is awesome. You got to watch it. And we also wanted to note several of the Chucksters in Oregon and Washington were pretty unhappy because Chuck was preempted for the NBA playoff games in their states. And of course, that's going to have impacted the ratings. But we did want to remind those fans that they can see the episode on Hulu or NBC.com. So don't fear, it is still available for you.
Mm-hmm. And 2.1 is good.
It is good.
Mm-hmm.
Ozziello has some positive updates on the renewal of Chuck, which, we've all been on pins and needles, of course. Mm-hmm. And he says, according to his inside sources, it looks more and more like NBC is going to bring back Chuck and Company for season 4. Nothing's been officially said by NBC yet, so don't start saying NBC said. They haven't said it yet. We're still waiting, but this is still good news. Still, we can't relax our efforts in the campaigning that we're doing, and just passing the word around. Keep watching Chuck. Keep buying the DVDs. Get involved in Chuck Declassified. Whatever you can do, come up with some creative ideas of your own to get people to watch Chuck and to keep watching Chuck. And we've launched part 2 of our renewal campaign as well. We're organizing a series of flash mobs in cities across the U.S. So if you'd like to participate, email renew@chucktv.net immediately, right away. Flash mob day is Monday, May 3rd, which is coming up really quick, guys. So if you want to participate, get in there. Renew@chucktv.net.
And for anybody who doesn't know, what is a flash mob?
Yeah. It's better to look at than it is to talk about.
Maybe do a YouTube search.
I mean, if you go to YouTube and you plug in flash mob, you'll get an idea of what it is. But basically, it's a bunch of people getting together impromptu, kind of, or it looks like it is. And one person starts out a dance move or just something. I've seen dance moving. And then eventually more and more people join in before you get the huge, ginormous crowd doing this. And it actually looks really super cool.
Mm-hmm. And you'll have these happen in really public places like a train station or something. And what's most hilarious is all the people around them who have no idea what's going on. Like it's just a very weird thing when you're in a public situation, how usually people are like cattle. and then all of a sudden for there to be an organized formation that seems random and yet it's all unified, like people just gawk at them, and it gets often even in the media, and it certainly there's videos that go up on YouTube when people see these things, and so it's definitely a great way to spread the news about Chuck.
And that's the plan, is for the participants to video what they're doing and then put it up on YouTube. And we are also planning some local media coverage, so it will go up on the evening news right before Chuck airs.
And this is a late edition, but if you're not in one of the mob cities, don't fret, because there is something you can do. You can show the world and NBC just how much you love Chuck. Just tweet the following message on Monday between noon and 1 p.m. At NBC, we want more Chuck. Give us another season of flashes and fun. The world's safety depends on it. Hashtag #FlashChuck. And we do want to make the note, don't tweet this multiple times. You can just tweet it once, and because there will be so many of us doing it, it will add up to a lot. But if you tweet multiple times, then people will see that as spam. So we definitely don't want to be creating bad will about Chuck. We want to be creating goodwill about Chuck. So you can get more details at chucktv.net about this Twitter flash mob, and as well, there's another sample tweet there. It doesn't have to be exactly this, but the thing is, you want that at NBC, and you want the hashtags #Chuck and #FlashChuck in the message. If you're watching this on video, you can see the message there, and you can also go to chucktv.net for details about this Twitter mob.
We're not going to be asking people to do dance moves. Of course, if they want to coordinate a dance thing, they sure can. But this is going to be more of a show and tell thing. We don't want to give too much away ahead of time, except for those people that are actually participating. So you don't really have to have dance skills to participate in this one. We're going a little more of the geeky route. So
yeah, that's great. And we've been getting some emails from international readers asking about the ways that they can help for Chuck to be renewed. I mean, we've got the ratings, which are predominantly American, and we've got these polls. And so we're really thankful that there was a guest writer for Kisto who wrote an article about how international fans can help Chuck get a fourth season. And she focused on a number of the polls in things like USA Today. And we know that most of what impacts the renewal is the ratings. But it is possible that those polls can help. I know particularly E! Online was a huge one. And it's great that we won that one, but definitely any time that there's a poll that happens, you've got people who read that publication and they look at that as just a news item and they say, that's interesting. Maybe I should check out this show, and that is a way that we can help the ratings to get higher. So appreciate for Kisto writing in, and I urge you to look at that article if you are outside of the U.S. To learn on more about how you can help as well.
And now on to some other news that doesn't really have to do with renewal efforts. Yvonne Strahovski has a new film, I Love You Too, that's opening in Australia on May 6th. And she's been back home for a couple of weeks doing press and attending the different premieres. They're doing premieres in all of the major cities in Australia. So she's been doing interviews, and there's photos. We've got those up at chucktv.net and yvonnestrahovski.net. She's been on radio programs and television programs and doing print interviews. And so she's doing quite a bit of press down there. And the Chuck fans in Australia are reporting that the film's getting terrific buzz. They're saying this is the most fun movie they've seen advertised down there, Australian movie that they have seen in quite some time. And it's getting really terrific buzz. There's billboards all over the place and posters. So they're excited about that. And I'm just crossing my fingers that it's going to be coming to the U.S. pretty soon. So in the meantime, if you happen to be in Australia and you are a fan of Yvonne's, which if you're a fan of Chuck, you have to be a fan of Yvonne's, really. I Love You Too opens in Australia on May 6th. So head to your theaters.
Cool. We got interview roundup that we want to get into. IO9 has a new interview with Chuck producer director Robert Duncan McNeill, and who we love. We talked a lot about they talked a lot about his approach to the comedy on the show. and what it means that Chuck and Sarah are now together. The New York Post has an interview with the always engaging Ryan McPartlin, in which he talks about the season so far and tries not to give away anything about what's to come. And Mo Ryan at Chicago Tribune also has an interview with Ryan in which he reveals the 5 most awesome moments on Chuck.
Mm-hmm. And it was something that I saw tweeted that I thought was really, really interesting was Zachary Levi revealing a new skill as he sang a duet with singer Catherine McPhee, who we know from, she was originally on American Idol, wasn't she?
She was.
Yeah. And the video featured the two of them singing Terrified is now showing on movie screens nationwide that subscribe to Screen Vision. And you can, I believe, find it on YouTube as well. Just search for Zachary Levi, Catherine McPhee, and or Terrified, and you'll probably find it.
I thought that was an amusing title for the song. Because, I don't know, I would have been terrified.
And now the video that I saw was not very good quality because it was kind of a video of
the movie screen.
Of the movie screen. But it seemed like Zachary Levi was doing a really good job singing.
Yeah, he sounded pretty good. And we know that he's going to be in, it was called Disney's Rapunzel, and now it's called Tangled. So we don't know for sure if he is singing in that movie, but now that he's gone public with that skill, maybe we'll find out that he is in fact going to have his solo or even a duet in that movie. Pretty cool.
That would be very cool.
That guy, he can just do everything, can he?
Yeah, I think so. Well, like I said, we have a veritable cornucopia of listener emails to cover. And so, Mel, why don't you bring us the first one?
All right. Our first email comes from Professor Roberto, and he's got a question about plot holes. To sum up, he says, in Chuck versus the American Hero, Beckman sends a B-2 stealth bomber to drop a bunker buster on the Ring facility. The plane flies low in clear sight above and along a major highway, brushes past the Griffith Observatory, and drops the bomb, destroying the building and the bunker in a huge ball of fire. I know Californians are laid back, but I doubt they missed the plane or the explosion or failed to connect the two. So his question is, how are they getting away with that on this show? How, what are our opinions of plot holes like that?
Yeah. I mean, for me, I don't think they're necessarily plot holes in the sense of, I mean, every episode practically we have action happening around ordinary people. I mean, in the first episode, they're running through a fountain to go defuse a bomb in this public hotel, and I think it's just fun. It's sort of
suspension of disbelief.
Yeah, it's suspension of disbelief.
Huge on the show.
Yeah.
Yeah.
I don't notice them.
I don't either. At this point, I'm just like, whatever.
I guess that's the way I look at it when I watch the show. I just don't sit there and think about, oh, well, this doesn't make any sense. If they're here, then they're over there. I just kind of go, well, okay, it's television.
Yeah,
anything can happen.
And we gotta realize that the show is based on a person being able to have a supercomputer inside his head. So I think if we can make a jump for that. We should be able to make a jump for this some of this other stuff, and I think it. I mean, I'm not necessarily saying it's wrong to be accurate about everything, but I think it might be a slightly more boring show if we took the time to explain everything and make sure that everything was realistic. I want a fun show more than I want a realistic show.
Yeah,
that's just me.
I feel the same way. I got enough realistic in realistic life.
Yeah. Unless it's completely ridiculous and not in an ironic way, not in a tongue-in-cheek way, it doesn't really bother me.
Yeah.
I know some fans kind of get hung up on those things, but it's a fun show, and as long as it's not impeding my enjoyment of the show, I'm okay with it.
Yeah. And I mean, there are some things, like we did have some discussion in Chuck versus the Mask about, say, for instance, when the bad guys just vanished, where there's that poison released, and all of a sudden they're just not there. I mean, that is one thing where, and who knows, that might have been on the editing room floor. just because of time or other challenges that they had to tell the story.
Wait, when did that happen?
In Chuck versus the Mask, near the end, there's that poison released, and there's a bunch of bad guys that are there in the museum with them, and all of a sudden they're just not there anymore, and they don't explain what happened with them.
Yeah. See how much that stuck with me?
Yeah, I mean, they could do more for those kinds of things, but they don't bug me that much. I'm much more focused on the story that's being told.
Exactly. I hope that answers your question, Professor.
Yep. But thanks for writing.
Andrew Green from the UK is asking, in the world of Chuck, every site I seem to go to is always talking about spoilers, whether it be sneak peeks or episode synopsises, casting calls, or episode summaries. So I would like to know, why is everyone in the world of Chuck seemingly obsessed with spoilers, or at least like to know what is going on? As in my opinion, they spoil a show. I love the podcast. I love the video setup. P.S. Bring back the crazy ending dance.
Thanks, Andrew.
Yeah, spoilers, I think it's I don't know why they're so big here. I think it's because we can't wait for anything anymore. We just, we want everything now. But I don't like to be spoiled.
Yeah, me neither.
I think it's personal preference.
Yeah.
There's some people out there who can't wait. They have to know. I want to know now. Mm-hmm. And, Mel's going to laugh at me because, there are books that I have to peek at the end.
I was just about to yell hypocrite.
So I know, but there's some things, I'm spoiled by spoilers.
Yeah.
But on the flip side, my mom was telling me that around episode 9 or 10, I think around episode 10, she wasn't all that interested anymore in Chuck until I was telling her, I was giving her some spoilers. And that made her, she told me afterwards, she said, I probably wouldn't have kept watching if you hadn't told me what was coming up, if you hadn't given me those spoilers. But because you did, I wanted to see how it was going to play out. I wanted to see that happen. So for some people, being spoiled is a way to anticipate what's going to happen, what's coming up, and something to look forward to. Mm-hmm. But then, for other people, it's just not. It's an actual spoiler, which is why they're called spoilers.
Yeah. And that's why we're always very careful. I know we joke about pulling your headphones out of your ears or sticking your fingers in your ears or that kind of thing, but we always do make sure that the spoilers are at the end of the podcast, because we do respect that there's a lot of people who don't want them. I do want to address one part of that question, and that's that I don't think it's just Chuck. I see this for Heroes, I see it for Smallville, I see it for V, I see it for especially genre shows. I guess it makes sense that in a procedural
it's not just genre shows though. I mean, I'm seeing it for Gossip Girl, for The Good Wife, for Glee. It's people begging, what do you have, what can you tell us? So it's not Chuck specific.
And I do think some of it is fun, like say for instance just knowing that Fred Willard is going to be on the show. It makes me a little more interested to see what's going on. Now, plot-specific spoilers, I think, do spoil it for me. But knowing that a certain actor is going to be in the episode doesn't really spoil what that character is going to be, if that makes any sense.
Yeah, it just, that actor's previous work, and so you can kind of anticipate what they're going to bring to the show, and that makes you excited to see them on whatever episode they're going to be on. And maybe speculate about what they're possibly going to be doing. But
yeah, cool. So thanks, Andrew, for writing. And next we move on to John T., who comments, I hope we get a season 4 and 5 and 6 and 7, etc. I agree. If you have never seen the movie Undercover Blues, starring Dennis Quaid, take some time and watch it. It's a comedy, action, romance about 2 spies who are married, take an assignment after their firstborn. And it's a direction that Chuck could go. Very interesting. I think there's been a lot of discussion about how And we'll get to that in the episode discussion about how you could have even a married couple as a spy team, and it could actually be quite interesting and fun.
Undercover Blues is one of my all-time favorite movies. I love that movie. Love it. Louise Jane or Jane Louise?
Uh-huh.
I've never seen it.
You've never seen it? Oh my gosh, you guys.
I think I saw it when it came out, which is in, the early 90s?
Oh, it's hilarious. It's got Stanley Tucci in there.
You know what I just watched in a similar vein was Romancing the Stone, which is another really fun one.
Yep.
So it can be done.
Yeah, Undercover Blues. Highly recommended.
Mm-hmm.
Okay.
So thanks, John.
And our next question comes from Bev from Wells, Maine. She says, my sons, who are both big fans of Chuck and Firefly, recently stayed at a motel in North Carolina with this blanket on the beds. We think it looks like Casey. What do you think? Totally.
Yeah.
Totally looks like
That
Casey.
was hilarious.
I wonder if Adam Baldwin knows about this.
Yeah. Now, I got to say, yeah, you won't find blankets like that in Canadian hotels.
Yeah, it's rather patriotic.
Yeah.
Yeah. Yeah, when I opened that picture that she attached, it was like, oh my gosh.
Yeah.
Somebody's
Yeah.
a big fan.
Yeah. So thanks, Bev. That was lots of fun.
That was pretty funny.
Yeah.
And the next one comes from John Ross B. He's from Aurora, Illinois. Yay, Illinois. He says, although I'm only 13 years old, I have a 13-year-old too, John. Although I'm 13 years old, I'm the ultimate Chuck fan. I have always watched Chuck, and I've watched the podcast ever since it started. My times were pretty boring before I discovered TV. I have so many questions, but to save you some time, I will only list a few. Is Morgan's girl Anna ever coming back? Good question. Is Kristen Kruk ever returning? Another good question. And is Chuck going to have to deal with the fact that Ellie can't know about his secret? These are all good questions, John.
Mm-hmm.
Is Anna coming back? I think we saw some previews for the rest of the season where we do see Anna.
Mm-hmm.
So yes, she's coming back.
Very soon.
Yeah. Kristen Kruk is not coming back.
No. Though I was very sad to hear that she didn't get that other show that Josh Schwartz was doing. Originally, she was supposed to be part of Hitched, which is a new show that Josh Schwartz is doing, and then she ended up not getting the part.
Actually, she ended up turning it down.
Oh, yeah?
Is what I read, that they were going through some of the rehearsals and things, and she just realized, this isn't my gig.
Mm-hmm.
This isn't, on paper, I think it looked like something she would love to do, and of course working with Josh Schwartz. But once it came down to actually putting it on film, it wasn't really working. It wasn't clicking. So she's moving on to other projects. We know she's got a lot in the works, so she's not going to be idle, that's for sure.
Oh, definitely not.
Right.
Yeah.
Just won't be back on Chuck. As far as Chuck having to deal with Ellie not knowing about his secret, well, I don't know.
I'd say that's a yes.
Yeah, every week he's got to deal with it.
Mm-hmm.
I don't know the future, but I think there's got to be at least somebody on the show who doesn't know his secret. So I'm guessing that she's not going to know his secret for quite a while.
There's a lot of debate about that, about whether she's going to find out and if she should. Because as you said, somebody on the show needs to not know.
Yeah.
But, I mean, as close as she and Chuck are, especially we've seen them getting, maybe not getting closer, but at least we've seen them, their relationship more and more in these last few episodes is becoming very burdensome for me as a viewer for her not to know.
Mm-hmm.
Mm-hmm. It's just, you can see that there's this huge wall, this huge obstacle between the two of them and she senses it. She just doesn't have a clue what it could be. She thinks it's something to do with him and Sarah or, yeah, she's just not sure what it is. And anyway, I can't decide whether I want her to find out or not.
Yeah, I'm sure it could go either way. I mean, definitely, like, she's sold as a person who's very smart and very observant. And yet her dad and her husband and her brother and her brother's best friend are
and her
all
neighbor
and her neighbor,
her brother's girlfriend.
Yeah.
It's getting to the breaking point here. It's getting to the point where it's just ridiculous that she does not know. Because like you said, she's a very smart woman. She's very observant and perceptive. So
I have my own thoughts, but I think I want to talk about them when we talk about the episode.
Cool. Okay. Well, let's wrap up the listener emails with one more. Ben asks, I was wondering if you could, instead of showing just screen caps from the episode, if you could show short video clips. It would add more Chuck to your podcast and make it super. Maybe it's a copyright issue. I don't know. And that's a great question, Ben. And yes, absolutely, it's a copyright issue. I've actually had a request in for a while to see if we can get some video footage in the podcast, and it is pending, and they've told me, don't get your hopes up. So it's understandable. It happens with every show, even news shows. They're only allowed to show certain clips from the episode. And there's a whole mile-long list of restrictions that you have to deal with it. And part of it actually is if we showed this podcast only streaming, in other words, you couldn't put it on your iPod, then we could put the video in. But we thought you'd want to have this on your iPod or computer, so we're stuck with screen grabs.
Which is okay.
Yeah, it's fine. I do think that screen grabs enhance the episode. I would far rather have that, at least that visual, to accompany our discussion. So it's better than nothing.
Right.
But anyway, speaking about discussing episodes, we get to talk about episode 314, Chuck versus the Honeymooners, which I think honestly was the most gleeful fun episode of the entire season so far, and particularly I think we've just witnessed the most gleeful Sarah in the history of the show.
Oh yeah, absolutely. She could power a small city with her smile in this episode. I mean, oh my gosh, and the accent.
Oh,
and
the Texan.
Oh gosh,
it just made it. What is it? I made it oopsie.
Oh, I made it oopsie. She did it perfectly.
Oh, perfectly. And for an Australian, I mean, that's incredible.
No, an Australian playing an American playing a Texan.
Yeah.
Wow. And she also got to speak Polish in this episode.
Yeah.
And, and did her American accent. That girl is, honestly, I liked this episode so much, I can barely talk about it.
Yeah.
I can barely articulate it because mostly what I want to say is, yep, I loved it all.
Yeah.
That's about as deep as I can get.
Oh, yeah. I mean, we talked about Chuck versus the Beard firing on all cylinders. I mean, this is like...
This one blew the cylinders out.
Oh.
It was...
everything. And literally anything that you want to analyze, I think was absolutely flawless. Like... And not just flawless, but fun. And that's the thing that to me is the heart of the show. And you could just get the idea that the actors were having fun playing this stuff. Like there was just this energy throughout the episode that was great. Even in the fight sequences, and the choreography for the stunts was amazing. I mean, people have already talked about how this will be the Emmy episode for Merritt Yonka's third Emmy.
Yeah.
But like the handcuffed, more than how many handcuffed fight scenes did we have? And the last one was just amazing.
Well, do you count them punching Casey as a fight scene, or
kind of?
They were so in sync. The two of them. Yeah. I was talking to Liz earlier about the scene on the moped where they're parked in front of the pastry shop and they're handcuffed together.
Mm-hmm.
And they see Morgan in there, and Chuck looks at Sarah, and she looks at him and gives a little nod, and then they go for it. They didn't even have to talk.
Yeah.
And they had the plan.
Yeah.
That's how in sync they were. And that was the entire episode. Twice they punched in unison while handcuffed.
Yeah.
I mean, it was just, aside from the time that Sarah went into at the very beginning when they were still a little disjointed because they weren't being honest with each other about whether they wanted to leave the spy life.
Yeah.
And Sarah goes into what do you call this? It's not a cabin when it's on a train.
Yeah, I guess you could call it a cabin.
Okay, yeah. A cabin. When she goes in and she's looking around, and then Chuck comes in and she hides in the bathroom, and then later on they find out it was each other, which was, I gotta say, that was a pretty hot scene when they found out, when they were talking about that,
Yeah.
Chuck says, You make even terrorist names sound sexy. And that was, and again, it was just so gleeful.
Yeah.
It was everything going on. They were just so delighted with each other.
Yeah.
And to be spending the time with each other
Mm-hmm.
with their emotions on the table and committed to each other. And it was just, everything. I liked everything.
Yeah.
I think it was really refreshing to see the two of them. For once, they were so relaxed and comfortable around each other because of having that big obstacle out of the way of, they got to live this spy life and they can't be together, and, their real feelings for each other are hidden, and all of that is gone now. So you could feel their comfort level was right there. They were like, they were like a married couple on their honeymoon.
Yeah.
And I adored them. I adored them both. I ate them up.
Yeah. Yeah. And there was a few things that people had talked about the fight sequence where Sarah and Bryce were fighting together in the Buy More, and how they looked like such an amazing team as they were fighting together. And I think that fight sequence when they were handcuffed together knocked the socks off of that scene with Bryce.
Agreed.
Chuck and Sarah together are far more than Sarah and Bryce were.
I agree.
We're going to get emails again, aren't we? You guys agree too much.
I agree.
Yeah.
We have nothing to disagree about on this one.
And this is going a little deeper, but for me, it definitely was a classic line at the end when General Beckman said, "Off the record, it's about time."
Do you know when she said that, I literally shouted.
Oh,
my son is my Chuck partner on Monday nights.
Uh-huh.
And, he looked at me and he's like, "All right, man." He's high-fiving me.
Yeah. Well, and the thing is, just like you've got that line, "Unleash the Casey."
Yes.
It's like when everybody knew, even General Beckman knew from the moment they met that they were destined for each other. And it's been on screen, 3 years that they've been denied from their love. And now that they're finally together, it's like they're unleashed. Like it's like there's this new energy that is that's been unleashed on the show, unleashed on the viewers, unleashed on their world.
Well, look how easy it was then for Chuck to pull from the intersect.
Oh yeah.
In his to slash. Look how much easier it became for him to be able to just turn that on.
Yeah.
And his little smile when he's sitting on top of the train.
Yeah.
And he flashes and he gets this little smile.
Yeah.
I think it was because he realized, hey, I can get this whenever I want.
That's right. It was excellent. I was really excited about that. And from this episode, I could totally see it was so clear how this show could move forward with the two of them together, and it could be a success, and it could be just as much fun and just as exciting and everything that made Chuck what it is. I think all those elements are still there, maybe enhanced, maybe better, because there's these two who are so in sync that, to watch them is like watching a dance. And I think that the show can move forward very successfully with the two of them together, where a lot of people were doubtful. Oh, it'll be the end. It'll be the end of the show if you put those two together. If you put Chuck and Sarah together, that'll be the end.
Oh, if you called this episode the end,
I
sorry,
disagree.
Yeah,
Going out with a bang.
Yeah. Oh, and it must be said, if you haven't seen the Heart to Heart tribute,
Yes.
Oh my goodness. Even if you never saw the Heart to Heart show, it's been publicly released, so we consider it, and because it's not really, there's just minor maybe spoiler in it, but especially now that we know that Chuck and Sarah are a couple, it's just a really fun video, and I love Morgan coming in on the motorbike. It's classic, but more about that later.
Morgan through this whole thing.
Let's talk some more about Morgan.
Yeah.
Morgan and Casey.
Yeah. And the thing is, Morgan being a legitimate help to the team.
Exactly. And he knows this, give him a computer, give him an instrument of technology, and he's no stranger, and he is helpful. But I love his smugness.
Yeah.
That made me laugh.
Yeah. Oh, and obviously I have to talk about the Canadian references. I love "Oh Canada" at the end.
I thought about you through this whole episode.
Did you like that the villain was at least pretending to be Canadian?
Yeah, I like that. And his attempt to try to be Canadian, apologizing to everybody and saying a boot.
Canadians are supposed to be so friendly.
That was his tip to Casey.
Yeah.
Be Canadian. Yeah, but then he did catch the fake agents, fake Interpol agents.
Yeah.
When they talked, by having read that travel guide back, front cover to back cover.
Yeah.
He was able to trip them up.
Yeah.
Yeah.
He is a little mini intersect.
Not so ridiculous to read Rick Steves, is it?
And I loved that he knew how to find Chuck.
Yeah.
Tracked down his prescription for his eczema moisturizer. That's a little tidbit we didn't know about Chuck.
Yeah.
And then the fact that Chuck, even while running away from the spy life, cannot resist getting the new issue of Justice League. Yeah. Which just came out. So.
Yeah. Well, and I know comic book fans, and the day that a certain comic comes out, they're at the store because they know when they're released and they're waiting for them.
It's very, very Chuck-like and very Morgan-like. So
yeah. We have to mention that it was Rafe Judkins, Lauren LeFranc, and Ali Adler who wrote this episode, and directed by Robert Duncan McNeill. All of them did a tremendous job. This is only the second episode by Rafe and Lauren, and I thought the writing was terrific.
I want them to write my life.
Yeah.
Oh my gosh. There were so many quotable lines. I quit writing them down. I couldn't keep up. There was so much good stuff. It was
totally fun episode. I'm so looking for now. I just can't wait till next Monday. Can't wait.
Yeah, and a lot of really smart ways of telling the story. Like in the beginning, when they had all the carts of food passing by, and it was just so smart to immediately you just got what was happening.
They've been in there for a while.
They'd been there for a while, and you got a mood from it, and it set up the scene without having to tell it with words.
And how about that very, very beginning when he's got the Mater D has the knife, and he asks Sarah if he should carve, and she's like, "No, I'm pretty good with knives." Yeah. I don't know. It was good.
Yeah, it was excellent.
And then they go undercover as the Charleses.
Yeah, that's right.
Oh yeah, they were just fun together.
I'm just coming off of watching it again, so I'm still pretty full of it. Mm-hmm. Full of the show, I mean.
Yeah, and even though I don't think shows should ever be about the technical part of it, but the technical part of this show was brilliant. I've even gotten Twitter messages from people in Europe who said that looked like Europe. That looked like they were on a train in Europe. Everything was totally authentic. The compositing was great. Like the train going on along at night and with Chuck on top, and obviously they're shooting that in a green screen studio, but boy, you couldn't tell.
Yeah, that dining car looked great. My daughter and I were both thinking as we were watching that, wouldn't it be nice just once go on the Orient Express or something like that? It just looks romantic. Mm-hmm. Well, it certainly was for them, for the Charleses.
Yes.
Yeah.
Charleses.
And they used every part of it very, very smartly, like the scenes in the dining car, the way when Casey found them and he thought the Interpol guys were drunk, the skiers and the rock musician guy, and it was fun how they got the spy tools from their surroundings.
Yeah. We should mention that the Polish rocker is Ivan Strahovski's boyfriend in real life.
Oh, really?
Mm-hmm.
Interesting.
Oh, cute.
Look at the little cameo.
Oh, and we haven't talked about Jeffster.
Jeffster, unplugged.
I thought, honestly, Jeffster has been funny up to now and cute up to now. But Vixa High did a tremendous job singing Leaving on a Jet Plane. Like I thought he sang that bang on.
I gotta say, I was surprised.
Yeah.
I was waiting. I was bracing for another, explosive rock and roll kind of go crazy Jeffster, but this was really quite nice.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah. I liked, though, that they felt that they needed to change into their turtlenecks to do justice to the song.
Oh, yeah.
And Jeff with his glasses.
Yeah. Yeah. Oh, that was honestly really, really good Jeffster.
Ellie broke my heart.
Oh, yeah.
In this one. And this, getting back to what we were talking about before, about Ellie not knowing what Chuck really does. It was made so clear when she made that comment about, oh, well, I'm sure there's something going on at the Buy More that was more important than my going away party. Or I'm misquoting, I know, but you know what the line I'm talking about. And I couldn't help but think, wow, man, Ellie has got to know. And I really want Ellie to find out what Chuck really does, because I know she says she's proud of him, and we've seen episodes where, Ellie's proud of Chuck and yada, yada, but I don't think she really takes him seriously, and she still thinks of him as her, as a little brother that she's got to take care of and, always be there for and everything. And I think if she knew what he really did, I just felt bad for her that she's so out of the loop. And that kind of hurt her, I think, just, the fact that something as menial as the Buy More, but it's not.
Right.
No, it's not.
I think she would be, worried about him, of course, but I think she would also be relieved to find out that that's what's been going on for the last 3 years.
Yeah.
On the other hand, Devin's really going to catch it.
Yeah.
Oh, she's going to be mad.
Yeah.
Okay, so he made me laugh when they were packing. When they were packing,
They're packing the barbells or dumbbells, rather.
This didn't happen by accident.
Yeah.
Though, I have to give the writers props for acknowledging that, yes, Devin is buff and he's really, really fit, but he works at it.
Yeah.
It's just one of those little tiny pieces of realism that make the rest of it work.
Yeah. Yeah. And there's so much in this episode. I know we're missing a lot of it. I twittered the fact that we're going to need a 4-hour podcast if we talk about everything. But
it's weird since it was an hour-long show. But.
Yeah. I love the bookend of, in the beginning, saying, will you leave the spy life with me? And then in the end, will you not leave with me? I mean, just fun. But also we get that transition in their relationship. I mean, this was a great relationship episode for them. And really, you can't just have them all of a sudden be spies. You got to show the transition. You got to show what it took to get them to that point where they believe they can do this.
Mm-hmm. And believe that they could do it together. Mm-hmm. And, for so long, Sarah's obstacle, her one of her main obstacles about being with Chuck is that she did not think she could be with him and be a spy.
Mm-hmm.
And in this episode, she finally realized it finally just clicked for her. And you could see it when it happened. Mm-hmm. Because Yvonne's just so good with the nonverbal. Yeah. You could see when it happened, the realization on her face, wait a minute, we can have it all.
Yeah.
We can do this. And then when they then vow to not quit the spy life with each other, and there's just such joy on their faces.
Yeah.
That they've figured out, oh, wait a minute, we can do this. All we have to do is convince Beckman. And clearly they didn't think that was going to be a problem. So.
And there were so many smart things about how they did it. I mean, first of all, you have them isolated on a train, and so they can see what they're really like when there's no support team around. Number two, you see them in a position where they can make a decision not to get involved. And you see how both of them independently make the decision that they want to get involved. Like I'm speaking with a spy action. And so you see them isolated from anything else and really see what their decisions are going to be. And so they learn about each other, and what they learn about each other excites them all the more because they realize that they are even more in sync than what they thought.
Exactly. That not only do they love each other and have those feelings for each other, but actually their outlook on life is the same.
Yeah.
They finally got on the same page with that. I mean, they both have kind of gone back and forth with it. All of season 1 was Chuck wanting to go back to being normal. And then season 2 was kind of him convincing Sarah, at least the first half, convincing Sarah that to join him in a normal spy life. And then the second half was him becoming more involved in the spy side of things while she was going towards the normal side of things, normal life. And then beginning of season 3, she asks him to run away with her in what she thinks would be a normal life. And, they've just been flip-flopping, on their own points of view. So it's just really nice to see them both on the same page saying, we want to be spies and we can be spies together. And that's normal for us.
Yeah. And it was really nice, too, to have that contrast with the Basque terrorist who was going into witness protection. And because really they've dealt with this from the beginning, the very first episode of the season, like you said, when they're considering running away together. And it's been this kind of thing that's been in mind since then. And now they have a very clear, obvious example of somebody who's been in that situation and says, you don't want this.
And how amusing was it to have, once again, the bad guy be the one who gave them the insight into their relationship.
Yeah.
Calling back to fake name when it was the mobsters.
Yeah.
Commenting on the will they, won't they.
Yeah.
To Chuck and, the lovable bad guy. So I thought that was nice. Which that was also an Ali Adler episode.
Yeah.
A little tie in there.
Yeah. So lots here. We have at the end of the episode, Ellie and Awesome going off to Africa. So there's been a lot of discussion about what that's going to mean. And we also have Chuck and Sarah totally joined at the hip now. And boy, I'm really, really looking forward to where this is going to lead.
So am I. I hope that for everyone else, it was worth the sometimes painful, sometimes very dark moments that we had in the first part of the season. For me, it was totally worth it. I mean, I wasn't always pleased with the execution, but it made sense to me that they needed to each go through kind of their own dark valley to get to this point where they could be completely committed to each other and be on the same page, realize, hey, wait a minute, we want the same things.
Yeah.
We really do. So.
And great choice of song to end the episode.
I know.
It's a new dawn, it's a new day, and I'm feeling good.
And how much do you love that Chuck is helping Sarah find a song?
Yeah. Oh,
that's
actually,
so
I don't know if you caught that on Twitter, but if you go to NBC.com, there's a playlist that Chuck made for Sarah. This Feeling Good song is on it as well. I think 11 other songs. I urge you to check that out at NBC.com/Chuck. Yep.
Yeah, it's such a Chuck thing to do.
Yeah.
So sweet. So sweet.
Yeah.
Oh. Well, I guess we did have more to say about the episode then. I loved it.
Yeah. Yeah. So that's it for episode 14. And I urge you to consider when we record these on Tuesday nights. And so after you watch the Chuck episode on Monday, feel free to send in your thoughts about the episode, and we might just talk about them in the podcast.
Indeed. Or in other words, help us have things to say.
Yeah. So mail@chuckpodcast.com.
Well, we're going to head into spoilers pretty soon. But first, we want to mention our sponsors. We have sponsorship from moviemorons.com. It's a podcast that talks about all things film, and they are not morons. And also SyrianJunkies.de, which is the largest television fan site in Germany. If you speak German or understand German at all, or just want to see the pretty pictures, we highly recommend visiting SyrianJunkies.de.
Sehr gut. That means very good.
Wunderbar.
Yeah. So we're going to wrap things up. We want to remind you to check out chuckpodcast.blip.tv. And if you ever have a choice, if you're watching on your computer anyway, in other words, if you use iTunes on your computer to watch the podcast, I urge you to either use the browser at chucktv.net or go directly to blip.tv and watch it there, because we get a little bit of advertising revenue when you do that. Very tiny bit, but the little tiny bits add up. And also want to remind you, if you still are subscribed in iTunes to the enhanced AAC feed, that feed is no longer updating and will be completely eliminated soon. So you want to go back to podcast 49 for instructions on how to change to the new feed.
Absolutely. And your questions and comments can also find us if you email them at mail@chuckpodcast.com. Please send them in. We love to hear from you, your thoughts and comments about this podcast, about the show, about what you're doing to spread the word about Chuck.
Mm-hmm. And so next podcast will be coming out in a couple of days, and that's going to be an interview with Robin Lewis, who is a costume designer for Chuck. And that will be very, very exciting. Hope it encourages you. But for right now, we're going to move into spoilers, which, as we said earlier in the show, you don't have to listen to spoilers. If you consider them spoiling to the show, just turn off the podcast now safely, and you will not be spoiled.
And we will see you next time.
Yep. Keep chucking.
Bye-bye. And we're back.
And we've got spoilers.
Yoo-hoo!
Earlier in the episode, we were talking about the heart-to-heart homage. The creative folks over at Chuck put together a very funny video promo for Chuck showing it is an homage to the Heart-to-Heart opening. Heart-to-Heart is a show from the 80s. It was one that I watched with my family when I was little, and I really loved it, about a married detective team.
Mm-hmm.
It kind of started out as a spy thing, and then it turned into more of a detective show, but it was very well liked. And of course, I mean, this is Chuck. There's going to be 80s references everywhere. So this is a natural progression. So it shows the promo, which you can see at chucktv.net, and it's up on YouTube, shows Chuck in a sports car, and he's, looking all suave and winking over across into the other lane. And then there's Sarah in a sports car, and she's all, also suave, or the female equivalent, and winking, and she does a little air kiss over, and it just, it's so funny. And then Morgan comes up behind them, and he's actually doing a voiceover talking about his boss, Chuck, and Chuck's woman, Chuck's girl, Sarah, and how they, fight crime and save lives. And he comes up on a scooter between them. And anyway, you got to see it. You just have to watch it.
Yeah.
But at the very end, there's an eye. So waking up. There's some debate over whether it is Chuck or Morgan. Some people claim that they can see, I believe, Star Wars on the sheets. It certainly indicate that it's Morgan, but it looked more like Chuck to me, especially since we know that there are going to be some dreams in his future that are going to be a plot point. So I don't know. I guess we'll wait and see. And we did think that this was just a promo for the show, kind of a standalone thing, except for that eye at the end. So maybe it is actually part of an episode. Wouldn't that be funny?
That would be funny.
Yeah.
And speaking of spoilers, because I love ya, I did another annoyingly vague spoilers asterisk edition, because obviously I couldn't do it the same way that I did the first one, since I revealed all the spoilers and kind of gave you the tools to figure out what I was talking about. So we did it a different way this time.
And it was lots of fun.
It was. People had a really good time with that, I think. I was amazed at how quickly the code cracking began until someone mentioned, I believe it was Bill, mentioned something about a crossword puzzle solver.
Oh, no.
Didn't even think about that.
Wow.
So I'm not going to confirm or deny any of the guesses until after the events happen. So But if you want to go look for the Friday 5 more annoyingly vague spoilers, it's the asterisk edition. Had some fun with that.
I gave up.
Yeah. I had a lot of fun coming up with them. Not nearly as much fun as watching the guessing going on.
Yeah.
Yeah, that was pretty fun.
Well, we've got some more spoilers from Ozziello. He never fails us in spoilers. And so we're going to get right into what he has to say to Charles, who wants to know, now that Agents Walker and Bartowski are together on Chuck, what's next to our favorite couple? And Ozziello says, well, there's a new obstacle. Chuck has a secret he's keeping from Sarah. Teases executive producer Josh Schwartz, a secret that could cost Chuck what Sarah loves most about him, his mind. Cost him his mind.
That's interesting.
Yeah. I don't know. Walking. I just got it.
Did you?
I just got it. Okay. I'm not saying any more. That would be too spoilery.
I think most people can figure it out, but
probably. But I'm
we
a
don't
little
want to
slow
ruin
on the uptake, and it's late at night, so I don't know. Anyway, Marie wants to know. She says, 2 weeks in a row without any Chuck spoilers. What's the matter? Sad that Shaw is finally gone? A little dig there at Ozziello, I think. She says, I'm not. What's next for Team Bartowski? And Ozziello says that Shaw crack may come back to haunt you, since I have it on very good authority that someone from Chuck's past will return in the finale to do him great harm.
Great harm.
Great harm.
Interesting. And we have more from Ozziello. Anything else you can tell us about the Chuck finale from Henry? And Ozziello says, I can't remember what I've already reported. So here's a rundown of everything I know about the 2-hour climax on May 24th. We have a Jeffster video. We have a new romance. We have the security of every major intelligence agency is threatened. Someone from Chuck's past will return to do him great harm, and we've just seen hinted that might be Shaw. Chuck's life is on the line, and the only person who can save him is his father, otherwise known as Scott Bakula. Like Count Dracula?
Yes.
Okay, Bakula.
Exactly the same.
Exactly the same, except without the dra.
And hotter.
Right, okay. And more shameless Subway promotion. Faux facial hair makes a cameo. Exclusive premiere of 3 Band of Horses songs. And there's another vague spoiler that could be Chuck, or it could be another show. Ozziello has included Chuck in a number of shows that could possibly have a pregnancy.
An unexpected
pregnancy. So it might not be Chuck, but Chuck is in the group of shows that could have this.
So there might be a little awesome on the way.
Yeah.
Oh, boy.
Or could we see the Undercover Blues happening?
It could. It could. I'm curious about who the new romance is.
Mm-hmm.
There's been a lot of speculation, most of it involving Big Mike.
Yeah.
Or possibly Casey and the ex-fiance.
I'd love to see that one.
I think that would be really neat.
Yeah.
Watch him be an annoying lovey-dovey.
Yeah.
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 Poor guy. He has to put up with so much.
Yeah.
The security of every major intelligence agency is threatened.
Mm-hmm.
Does that mean just the U.S. or global?
I'm guessing that's saying U.S. NSA, CIA, and FBI. Which would just imply that somebody's either breaking into their computers or that there's a new intersect that's happening.
Ooh. Another intersect.
I'd like to know what the 3 Band of Horses songs are.
That's quite a coup.
Mm-hmm.
What's Band of Horses? I'm sorry.
Oh, it's a band.
It's a band.
Yeah.
Really?
Yeah, it's a real band. They've been on the show before. They've had songs on the show before.
Okay.
Yeah.
I didn't remember.
Yeah. It's not Jeffster. Promise.
Mm-hmm.
Okay.
All right. So lots of finale talk. But before we get to the finale, we have a few other episodes. So we're going to leave you with the synopsis for next week's episode. It's episode 315, Chuck versus the Role Models, and it airs on Monday, May 3rd. And the official NBC synopsis reads, Chuck and Sarah train with a married CIA team. Fred Willard and Swoosie Kurtz guest star.
Mm-hmm.
Chuck and Sarah are assigned to train under Craig and Laura Turner, which is guest stars Fred Willard and Swoosie Kurtz. A married CIA team who, despite their impeccable record, hate each other.
Oh, no.
The Turners' stormy relationship forces Chuck and Sarah to wonder if they're doomed with the same fate.
Uh-oh.
Meanwhile, Casey must train the newest member of the team, Morgan.
Oh, that's going to be good.
We have photos from this episode already posted at chucktv.net. They were released last week. And there's some good ones in there of Sarah and Chuck. Well, there's one of Chuck screaming like a girl that's pretty funny. I mean, you can hear the screaming even though it's a still.
Mm-hmm.
And hiding in a closet. This is also the episode that has the tiger.
Ah.
And, yeah. Not in the context we expected.
Oh, really?
Nope. And, of course, lots of Swoosie Kurtz and Fred Willard doing what they do best.
Oh, and they are a classic.
Use us. Yes. Entertain us.
Yeah.
Time. So, very much looking forward to that.
Oh, that's going to be a fun episode.
So, tell your friends. Sure. And I wanted to remind you again that the Flash Mob is scheduled for May 3rd, which is the same day that this episode airs. So if you are interested in participating, please email us right away, renew@chucktv.net. The list of cities that are participating is up at chucktv.net. So check that out, see if it's happening in your neck of the woods, and we'll put you in touch with your team leader if you'd like to participate.
Cool. So I think that's all we have right now. So watch in a couple of days for our interview with Robin Lewis, costume designer from Chuck. See you then.
Ciao.
Bye.